So, welcome back. I hope you had a good, fresh, quick refreshment. We're gonna jump into the next session around the forces among us. There's a part one and a part two that will come after the break. Please, we need silence so we can hear Diogo that will tell us about regenerate the Mira in a second. Diogo is from Clara Lab and SOS Rio Mira. Thank you. Yeah, we really need to to focus to keep the river flowing. And Diogo, the stage is yours.
Good afternoon. Thank you a lot thanks a lot for the invitation to be here and to tell you a little bit about the initiatives that we are working. We are also in this Odmira region of the Mira region. We live near the dam, over the dam, and I'm developing a project called Clara Center for a Rural Future that I will talk a little bit more in a second. So this is, I purposely choose this photo because this was kind of the ignition of the SOS Rio Mira initiative, because this association, this Heavy Mira that Anne was telling you about, just cutting the water to the river and the river dried. It's something that happens in these Alentejo rivers. They are temporary, they dry in the summer and they fill during the winter, but now we have other things happening in the river. We have these sewage plants throwing pollution into the river. So the river, apart from all the ecosystem thing, it needs to have water flowing. Okay, this is, I don't know if you can see anything, but this is, well, the region that we are. The river is really of importance for this region, not only because water is life for all the activities, but it represents the culture of the region and connects the people of this region. This dam was built during the late 50s, early 60s, and it's there for more than 50 years. And now we're having all these problems related with the river. I live in that blue dot, and our project is on the red dot, just for you to have an idea of where we are. So this is the Odmira municipality. It's the biggest municipality in Portugal. It has this low density population. We are only 30,000 people, less than 30,000 people living in this region. Most of those people are in the coastal lands. In the interior, we are suffering from other situations. But this Odmira is a land full of potential. It has these beautiful beaches along the coast. It is surrounded on north and south by these mountain ranges of Monchique and Sacral. The river comes from the mountain ranges of Caldeirão, and it crosses all this territory with all these streams and water that is connecting everybody and every place. So this is kind of framing what we are doing here in this territory. And the Odmira, we always think the problems are away and far away from us, but Odmira really, it concentrates all these problems that we see all over the world. You can see in that map. That map represents the susceptibility of the soil to desertification. And as you can see, almost 50% of the country is really at danger of desertification, and our region in the south is really in this high risk of desertification. So soil desertification is a really big issue in Portugal and mainly in this region. The loss of biodiversity is also incredible. We see in the coastal areas, as Anne was saying, covered by plastic and with this it's not intensive farming. I will not call it intensive farming. I will call it almost mining, because these big companies came here and they take all the resources out, and when they are done, they just move to another country. So it's not farming that we are talking there. We are talking about an industrial operation that doesn't take in account all the ecosystems. So loss of biodiversity is really a thing. In the interior part, on the other side, we have these vast areas of eucalyptus, this monoculture that are creating lots of problems with fires and with this loss of biodiversity. We have water scarcity, and the water management is something incredible. The injustice of how the water is distributed, only allowing water to be distributed to these big companies in the coast, but taking out water from the small farmers and from the population. It's really damaging to see this happening and see the people that are using water to plant their self-sustainable crops, like these small vegetable gardens. The water is taken away just to keep more water to these multinationals. Pollution is also an aspect here. Not only the pesticides that they use in these greenhouses, but also the pollution that comes to the river from the water sewage treatment plants that should be replaced like 20 years ago. The population, as you see in the graphic on your right, it's really an issue on the interior part. This region has lost since the 60s more than 75% of its population. The population is aging, of course. When you create these conditions, it's really difficult to activate the community again because people are old. There are not so many people. Everything starts to close, the restaurants, the services. So this is also another problem that we face, mainly in the interior part of the territory of Odmira. The migrants, Anne already talk about this. We have this flood of migrants. Not that migration is a problem because we need people in the interior, but it's the conditions that they are hosted in Odmira. We see migrants as a potential for that region because we have this foreign community that is coming to Odmira to work on different ways of producing food, of working with the land. So we see migrants as a potential also. We also see worldwide and there this bipolarization. We are the ones that are for and the ones that are against, and we are creating this, stretching these blocks and putting people against each other, and we see this worldwide with social media and everything. So it's really an issue here, how to bring people together and how to connect people again. So because of all these things that I'm talking about, the economical part is also a big problem, the lack of opportunities and this concentration of all the wealth that is created in only these multinationals. It's a handful of multinationals that take profit from all the richness of this territory, of all the water that exists here is controlled by this public-private association, but in practice, it's the multinationals that control how the water is distributed, what the people pay, and how much they can use and allow the others to use. The river, of course, is the last one to be considered. When they want to keep more water, they just close the water to the river, and the communities are facing back to the river because they use the river as this place that was part of their life, but nowadays they are completely far apart from this.
2 minutes, Diogo.
2 minutes, my God, I don't have time for nothing. Okay, I will call about the positive things. We've just launched the SOS Rio Mira after they closed the dam. So it's a community activism group, is to create awareness about these problems and bring the community to be engaged in this, and also to create awareness on media, to create pressure to the governments, because governments nowadays, they govern by what happens in the TV. So we really believe that it's important to bring the community together. The project that we are working, this Clara project, we believe it's a catalyst for regenerative development, a new way of doing it. It's kind of a laboratory, not only to restore the ecosystems, but also to find new solutions of how we can engage, how we relate with those ecosystems, how humans relate with those ecosystems, in the way we produce food, in the way we dress, in the way we build. We want to create this in a place of an abandoned brick factory, to create this place of a kind of a laboratory of creation, experimentation, and learning. So this is what we are doing there, is trying to transform this old brick factory into this new new laboratory. So this was the activities that we created with SOS Rio Mira. We first did a demonstration at the dam because it was really a symbolic place. We gathered the community there and we unwrapped this message. Then we've created, before the elections, we've done this musical festival with 20 bands and 13 hours of music, so also to engage the community and to bring the community relating with this question about the river and the water. And we were part also of this beautiful march with Anne and with other organizations, again, in this process of creating awareness. I will not take much about this. This is our Clara project. It's about creating a community of care, people that care and be engaged in this transformation, in this change. We are working on these 4 thematics: art, food, ecology, and fabrication. Fabrication in a wide sense, from architecture to design and other ways of doing technology. It's bringing here this creative community to work with the local community to bring new solutions and new opportunities. We've just licensing this project after 3 years fight, and we have these objectives for our activities of how can we value the local resources and the local people to create new opportunities. How can we connect people, and not only there, but only bring people from the city so they can relate to what are the difficulties in these rural areas to produce food, to do anything. So it's really important for people to create this empathy so they can worry and then can do things differently. It also it's much about sharing knowledge, about sharing best practice of how to do this regenerative work and how to use all this ancient knowledge that people there have and that we need to revisit and to do it differently. And of course, it's about regenerating the ecosystems. How can we save the river? How can we recover soil? How can we plant trees and create a more vital environment? So, of course, this is a big effort. We are a non-profit association that are starting this. We also need support. And part of our concept, apart from the collaboration aspect and the community aspect, is to work with partners. It's to create the conditions for partners to engage on this and to activate this partnership. It is really, really important.
Time is over, Diogo.
Just 2 ideas.
We need to close.
One thing that I wanted to tell you is that when we work the problems, we are working on negative things and we are looking to the past. So what we think is really important to work the potential of the place and work at the level of the place, because the place is the only scale that you can measure and understand the connections that we have with ecosystems, the connections that we have with each other. We need to work with the communities, and we see this change. We see this change happening. We see everything that comes from the government and from above. We see all these disturbing things that the regulations and the laws and these problems amplifying, but we also see a community full of energy making this transformation from below. We see a lot of groups creating these new eco-villages, people coming, wanting to do differently. So I think we really need to work on the community level and trying to do this change on a network base and working in collaboration. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is the photo from the same place that I showed you before. After we've done that demonstration of SOS Rio Mira, the first one, and after several groups started to make pressure, they open again the water to the river, and it's really a beautiful place. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Diogo. I would like to check with the team there if we have Tahina Johnston online. She comes from Moving Water Alliance, The Planet Calls. Welcome, Tahina. And we're going to hear from about reviving, restoring, and healing the Henops River. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Oh, I'm hearing an echo.
We hear you well.
Can I just continue? I'm the chairperson of the Moving Water Alliance. I was identified by The Planet Calls and asked to chair this position as a result of the work that I've been doing in South Africa on the Hennops River, which is my local river, and with the goal of replicating the work that is being done here all over the world. And the Moving Water Alliance is a home to river and beach cleanups all over the world. So in order to give you a better understanding of what we're doing in the Hennops River and why, I want to take you on a tour of the issues that we're faced with, and then show you some of the realities, and then also what we're doing in order to assist in getting this river back to its natural state. You can change slides. So we're dealing with a serious waste reality. Bridges are being used as dumping sites, and also stormwater channels. So the poverty-stricken areas, we're dealing with people who have got houses and no waste removal services. So the waterways become the waste disposal places. You can change to the next slide. There's also a lot of informal trading where people are selling food on the side of the streets, and then if that food gets outdated or old, it just gets tossed into the stormwater system. And also, as you can see, there's a lot of degraded grey infrastructure, and it's also being used as waste bins. Next slide. We're also faced with industrial pollution. And as you can see here, this is oil that's been discharged from industry straight into the waterway. And if you look at the next picture, you'll see we're standing about 10 meters away from a crystal clear spring, and it's just being polluted the way it is, like in the first picture. You can move on. Our wetlands are being turned into wastelands. There's a lot of illegal dumping that's happening, and nobody seems to be doing anything about it. There's also a lot of development happening on the wetlands, and that is a growing problem and concern. Next, please. And as you can see, there's quite a lot of building going on, and also toilets which are flushing their raw sewage straight into the waterways. Next. We were also faced with severe wastewater treatment plant realities. And most of the plants in South Africa are not functioning to their full capacity. And as you can see, the effluent that's being discharged is hugely problematic to the environment. And there's nothing that can actually survive in this water. Next, please. There just again a close-up on the color of the effluent that's being discharged into the river. Next slide. Okay, then we have the informal recycling reality. So this is a community of people who are living right on the riverbanks. And unfortunately, when the water level rises and during rain season, most of this stock actually gets washed down into the river. And these people who are doing recycling are, they flock towards the river banks because they need to wash the stock, because people in their homes are not washing and separating their recyclables. So what Hennops Revival is doing is job creation. We are working with homeless people in the community and creating jobs as much as we can for people to just to have their daily bread and to also improve on the river's situation. Next, please. And there you can see just how deeply entrenched the guys get into the river. And, we have a lot of fun doing it as well. It's not a very formal job. So we do have fun on these days. And we're also highly effective. As you can see, there's a before and after photo. Next slide. We also encourage active citizenry because we believe that active citizens help municipalities to function better. So we really we host community cleanups, and we invite the community to come through for a day and get their hands dirty and give back to our Mother Earth. Next, please. We've also done some citizen science within the community where we get people involved in basic water chemistry and mini SAS projects so that they can also understand the importance of healthy rivers and see what it's like and what all the organisms are that can be found within the waterways. Next, please. And then we do our own water quality testing, which is conducted through our sponsors. And it's just to have data for a backup to understand the best quality or to understand the quality of the water so that we can find the best way in which to remediate. Next slide. Okay, and then our unique application is a litter catchment system. It's been designed in 3 phases, specifically for this particular part of the Hennops River. The first stage is, as you can see, it's quite a wide grid. It's all made of cables. And this is just a few of the stakeholders standing on it to give you an idea of the size. It stretches 63 meters in width, and because that is the width that the river actually reaches when it's in flood. And in the next slide, you can see what happens and what gets caught once we've had rainfall. And this isn't even particularly heavy rainfall. The next slide. So here you can see the phase 2. This is just a slightly smaller grid, and it's also designed to catch that which passes through the second phase, or the first phase at least. And then you can see in the next slide what happens once we've had rainfall. Even big trees are passing through the first phase, but we remove all of this and ensure that everything hangs back into the water once again once we have cleaned up. And in the third slide, we've got the third phase at least, we've got a barrel system. So it's a row of barrels that run across the river, and then in the middle picture you can see it's got a grid underneath which is quite small, and that catches quite a lot of the waste. And it also operates on a release system, so it's anchored on the other side, and then this barrel in the last picture will float up as the water level rises and then just pop off the top so that we don't create damming or other problems such as back flooding. And then next slide, you'll see what happens to this section and how much and how effective this is in trapping waste. And as you can see, there's a lot of polystyrene from food packaging, lots of plastic, lots of organic waste as well. And this obviously has to be cleaned quite regularly. There's a permanent flow of waste down this river. It never stops. Next slide. Okay, we've also done a project called Phyto Blitz, and this is through Anglo-American Ambassadors for Good. This is with vetiver grass, which we've placed in pontoons in the Hennops River, and that is to determine what these plants' role is in remediation, what they extract from the water, and we'll be testing the roots and the leaves in order to see what nutrients are being extracted and how we can use these plants going forward in the remediation. Next slide. We've also done a bank retention project. And this is basically, this stretch of the river has probably tripled in size since over the last few years. And we've planted over 4,000 vetiver grass slips in the area in the name of bank retention and soil regeneration so that we can hopefully control the soil erosion here. Next slide. At the end of the day, we don't have time. So I ask that you pause and reflect, because the state of our rivers is a direct reflection of a huge amount of pain, a very broken system, and a massive disconnection to ourselves as beings made up of mostly water. What we do to water, we do to ourselves. Be the change. Imagine the future. This is now. The future started long ago. Next slide. We have received a number of certifications and awards for the work that we've done over the past 2 years. I think we might be running out of time, so I'm not going to name all of them, but there they are. And then the next slide. Of course, none of this would be possible without our sponsors and our partners. We've been hugely supported, and none of this would have ever been happening if we didn't have the support from the crew around us, both online and on the ground. Next slide, please. Water is life. Next slide. Okay, our impact in numbers. Since November 2019, when we started, we have removed close to 1.5 million kilograms of trash cleaned up, and that's including the hyacinth that we've removed. It's a total of almost 67,000 bags that have been collected with the help of over 3,000 volunteers. Next, please. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak at the European River Summit.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. How did it go?
Wow, quite impressive pictures. Thank you. Thank you, Tahin. And stay with us because we're going to have a time for discussion in a bit, okay? And now I would like to present you to Leila Kusturica. She's from Sarajevo, from an atelier for community transformation called ACT, and she's presenting us what they fear the most is us united. Welcome.
It seems so dark. I was almost inclined to say good evening. But I hope that, you know, it's almost the end of the day, but we can still like focus and be inspired and motivated like I am or was in the last day and a half. Thank you so much for such inspiring and insightful presentations to my colleagues on the panel, but all of you who presented before. So my name is Leila. I come from Sarajevo, from a foundation, a newly born foundation called ACT, Atelier for Community Transformation. And we were founded to actually join many people across Bosnia who are fighting against injustice, who are fighting for dignified life, for protection of our people and our nature. And the way we are doing it in Bosnia is to fight for our rivers that are in particular attacked by small hydro. Today, I would like to share with you the struggle through our eyes. You know that Balkan rivers have been attacked like long time ago, in the past 10 to 15 years. And you also probably know, I'll just point out some things that I'm sure many of you know, but the Balkan is the area of the Europe of around 470,000 square meters. And you know that unfortunately, our borders have been redrawn for so long in the past and for so much in the past 100 years. I'm sure many of you are old enough to remember the last war of the 19th, which actually struck the region really hard and people got divided. We were persuaded by our politicians that we cannot live together, that we have more things that are separating us than actually, you know, things that are bringing us together. And unfortunately, the guys in power who started all of that were very successful. The region got divided, Bosnia and Herzegovina in particular. It would take me ages to explain the political structure and all the political problems that we are dealing, but they are very present. Unfortunately, with the end of the war, we adapted capitalism and the free market. And Bosnia and Herzegovina, just like any other country in our neighborhood, was actually struck with a very, very severe privatization. Our factories, public companies were destroyed. Worker unions were also divided, and eventually, you know, workers and many people felt really like abandoned by the countries that they were fighting for during the war. What actually came next after our companies, public companies, were, what would be the proper way to say, when they were given or a kind of, shared among politicians and investors, unfortunately, they decided to attack our nature. And that's exactly when our rivers started being attacked, and in particular with small hydro. And there are so many scientists, people of various expertise, and the Balkan rivers are like crystal clear rivers. 80% of them are in a great shape. And we really, especially in Bosnia, have something, to fight for. And if I can enlighten you with some beauty and richness. Have you ever seen this? Have you ever been there? You should come, and this is attacked as well. It's one of the really most beautiful sites I've ever been to. This is River Una, also beautiful, also River Una. River Cvrtska. River Kozica. Kruščica, Kruščica, I'm wearing their shirt, Brave Women of Kruščica, River Neretvica, Doljanka, Pliva, Ugar, Kasindolska River, and I'll stop here. So, I'll put this. So, when they came after rivers, the resistance came about, which happened around 10 years ago. 10, 15 years ago, it depends. And I'll just point out slightly that right now in Bosnia, there are 100, almost 20 small hydropower plants built. They produce 2.2% of electricity on an annual basis, and they already destroyed a number of our rivers. And when they started building the small hydro, at the same time, people started actually coming together. And I find it really astonishing. Our rivers in the region, like any other river across the world, they really don't know and recognize these borders that politicians and unscrupulous investors kind of emphasize all the time, because only what they care about is the profits and the power. And it is very beautiful that especially those rivers brought people in the region back together. It's just really inspiring. You have to know Bosnian people in the region and how we were actually struck by the war and how people actually refused to riot and fight for their rights. And then to see people coming together was very inspiring. ACT is a movement building organization. So last year, when we actually saw the momentum, and I have to emphasize that the resistance has been going on for the past 10 years, but in the last 2 to 3 years, it really became like something. The movement was building. Coalition River was started 2 or 3 years ago. My colleague Dragana will say more about it. And last year, we really recognized that there was a momentum going on. So ACT started a campaign that is called Bosnia Runs Free. And campaign had 4 goals, if I could say. One was actually to convince people across Bosnia and the region that small hydro is really bad. The other one was about mobilizing people, like people across different sectors, different fields, not only like people who care about nature and who are really like passionate about defending rivers. And the third one was about supporting these local communities. We call them local river movements. And the fourth one was to actually pressure the government of the half of the country to pass the law banning small hydro. And this is the part that I really like to talk about. We managed over a year, probably over a year period of the year with many others. ACT didn't do anything alone. There were organizations who did the job before us and who are still struggling. But we really managed to change the public perception about small hydro. We have a joke now in Bosnia that every kid thinks that small hydro is bad. And we know that because of, yes, Bruna, I think, was saying, we were really present, you know, in the media, and we were really like harassing them. And because of the media and, you know, how they were asking questions to politicians, to investors, we really realized that it's changed. And then when it comes to the mobilization, I really noticed after one particular show that happened in November last year, it was a 1-hour show that started at 8 p.m. Obviously, the whole Bosnia watches that show. I was not even aware of that. Many people called, like judges called, offering their pro bono, under-the-table support when it comes to legal fights. Obviously, they wanted to stay anonymous. Singers, like you'll see one of the most popular Sevdah singer from Bosnia, she called and she said, I want to join. What can I do to raise awareness, to make pressure? Also scientists, like professors, National Geographic scientists, he approached us and he said, I want to be part of your movement. And it was really, really inspiring to you know, just see Bosnia moving. And I was mentioning before how, you know, after the war, we have this saying that basically, until we are bombed, we are okay. That means that we do not go into the streets to fight for our rights. We really have tendency just to kind of close into our little small micro words and avoid the problems, because in Bosnia there are too many problems and it can be really overwhelming. And yet, when they came after rivers, people started uniting. They started uniting in their own communities, but not only that. They started uniting across communities, across entity lines, and then across the region. And that's exactly what I wanted to actually talk about today. And I want to take you through several very active local river movements, like Neretvica.
We have 1 minute, Lila, so you know.
1 minute. It's gonna be challenging, but I'll give my best. This is one of the most inspiring movements that, or people, or I don't know how to even put it in words. This is Baka Ana, she said, only over my dead body. And their, how you say, like their statement is blood or water. They plan to build 15 small hydro on this river, and they say, well, only in their dreams. And I'm convinced they will never do it. Even the investor is the public company. This is Sevdah diva, Hanka Paldum. She sang on the river, and the media really, and the public, everything exploded for several days. We got such a good media coverage. River Kruščica, you all heard about brave women of Kruščica. They received the Green Nobel Prize, and they are still fighting. The river is still not safe. The investor just started the process. This is the artist, Iman. She approached us. She's making this beautiful jewelry. She made this badge of courage for women of Kruščica, and she personally handed this over to them. River Bjelava, the construction started while we were under lockdown. Still ongoing fight. Colleagues from Center for Environment are working on this case. Kasendalska River, I am so inspired by these two girls. They are 20-something years, and they defend Sara and Sunčica, this river. River Pliva, one of the most beautiful waterfalls, just recently almost, I would say it's defended, thanks to people organizing. This is not working, and it's taking my time. Really, I'm pressing, look. Come on, vouch for me. I really want to finish this. Can I have 2 more minutes, please? And I'll wrap up.
30 seconds.
Not. Okay, River Doljanka, still Buna Canal again. This is athlete Jemo. He ran from Old Bridge in Mostar to Buna Canal to raise awareness, and it was also beautiful. River Ugar, I'll skip. This is the National Geographic scientist. This is a sad case, protest in Sarajevo, and I want to, this is one of the River Coalition meetings, and I just want to say that in this April, we were invited to actually come to Belgrade for a protest, big environmental protest, where we had this idea to form a regional alliances. What actually happened on 4th of July this year, it doesn't work. Here it is. There is Dragana, you'll recognize her. And this is what they fear the most, and it's us united. After this meeting, I was approached by Secret Service of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and they were posing questions. Well, not only that moment, but I knew that, that we are finally being taken really seriously. And the movement is growing, and there are so many people that I would want to just like present. Many of them, Dragana is here, she's definitely one of them. But this guy, he is the reason why I actually wake up and go into the streets or to the river every time I get depressed, and I do that quite often when you live in Bosnia. It's
Thank
true.
you, Lila. So inspiring, and we need to move on to the
this
next
is Nina
presentation.
Kršeljaković, one of the lawyers defending rivers in Bosnia. Oliver, by himself, defending Buna Canal. Mika, my inspiration, brave women of Kruščica. And Sučica, she's our sunshine. She's only 20 years and already making protests in Bosnia.
Wow, this is amazing.
This took me 3 minutes. Thank you. This is it. Thank you very much.
Amazing. So,
if I
thank you
can
so much.
only conclude with the words, unity is so important. We have to take care of each other. Really, we have to nurture it. Everything is important, but us being united and actually moving forward, that's the only way for us. So take care of each other. And let's do more things together. Thank you. Thank you for the extra time.
Wow, thank you so much. We'll have less time for discussion and break time. I hope you enjoy the option. Thank you so much for such a passionate and touching speech. And we'll have Silvano now with us. Silvano Risi, he's from the ecology group of Tameira, and he's showing us about water retention landscape of Tameira. Welcome, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you for the time, and thank you for being here, for putting your energy into this weekend, but also in general of putting your energy, your passion, your time into this topic of water. I am personally very touched of the topic of water and the possibilities that we have, like the topics of abundance. And I believe we can change climate change. We can go to climate from climate adaptation to restoration. So I deeply believe in this. And I would like to show you mainly a movie of the work we are doing in Tameira, South Portugal, and also in the region. And I would like to say some words before. As we had it just a moment ago about unity, for me it's the first time being so close to river protectors. And I see it as a really important part of the big water cycle. Myself, I am a very big fan of the big water cycle and also the small water cycles. And I myself see myself more in the higher part of the water catchment and on the higher part of the water cycle before the rivers. Where I live in the southern Alentejo, mainly the main springs and the rivers and the river lines, the water lines, dried up. So unfortunately, I cannot anymore protect the flowing sweet water lines and the rivers. I have to work with restoring the water catchments. So what we are doing with restoring landscape is working from up to down, and especially the moment where the drops of the rain hit the ground, unfortunately not anymore the fertile soil with vegetation, but mainly bare soil, bare earth and clay. Especially in this moment, I'm active and Tamara Ecology is active and trying to close the water cycle in this moment, so to let the raindrops infiltrate into the earth body and not let them roll down, and that it creates erosion and runoff and floods and desertification in general. So one of my most beloved sentences is, the rainwater doesn't belong into the river, it belongs into the ground, into the aquifer. And the fruit of a full charged aquifer are the springs. And the springs all year long constantly give fresh water meandering into the rivers, into the creeks, into the ocean at the end. And this cycle, this we would like to support with reforestation, restoration of the landscape and water retention landscape in Tamara and in the region. So I would like to invite you to watch the movie that is actually quite old. It's from 2007, 2011. In Tamara, we had a visitor who was Sepp Holzer, 2007, and he helped us to see the abundance of water that we have on our landscape. We thought we don't have water, and he showed us how much rainwater, especially in the wintertime, falls on our ground, and what happens if we slow this water down and let it infiltrate into the earth body. And since his visit, we, the ecology group of Tamara, continued the work and went higher up in the landscape and started to build swales, check dams, reforestation lines, and start to build up soil. So enjoy the movie.
Wasser ist Leben.
Water is life. Water is the most important thing. The whole world is 70% water.
Die Tiere, alles.
We, the animals, everything. 70% water.
Water is a key issue for the survival of humankind on this planet. Nature has provided enough water everywhere on Earth. But 1 billion people do not have sufficient access to clean drinking water. More and more regions lack the water to grow the food they need. Centralized systems of artificial water management cannot solve this problem. We need decentralized systems of natural water management. We are in Tamera Peace Research Centre in southern Portugal, where a water retention landscape has been under development since summer 2007. Bernd Muller is responsible for Tamera's ecological research work.
Noch 2007 hatten wir in der Gemeinschaft Tamera die Frage,
In 2007, the community of Tamera still had the question whether a site of this size, threatened by desertification, could provide food, water and energy for 300 people. We visited Sepp Holzer and asked him this question, and he brought us this gift, the vision of a water landscape.
Sepp Holzer, an Austrian mountain farmer, is a well-known specialist and visionary for permaculture and landscape healing. Water is always at the core of his work.
Wasser ist für mich das größte Kapital.
For me, water is the most important capital. Wherever it's possible, you should create retention spaces and collect the rainwater and relearn with the water how to maintain a balance. This is the most important thing, because once you've created the right hydrological balance, 70% of the work is done. You help rich vegetation to develop, diversity, because nature can reveal itself and develop in the right way.
Wenn ich reise durch die Welt, ist mir bis jetzt noch keine Situation,
Traveling through the world, I have not seen a single situation, nation or land in which the development of a water retention landscape would not give the first important healing impulses. In many parts of the world, countries are not able to feed their population anymore. They have been unable to maintain their natural wildlife for a long time.
As a consultant in many countries, Sepp Holzer sees the consequence of deforestation, monoculture, overgrazing and industrial agriculture. All these factors destroy the natural water balance.
So trocknen die Böen aus, so geht das Wasser verloren.
The soil is drying out, water is being lost, and the retention space, the natural water storage system of the earth, is becoming dry. Then the flora and fauna disappear. In the end, the land will turn into desert or burn because it's so dry. You can see these problems happening all over the world, bringing huge catastrophes.
Der Starkregen kommt ja trotzdem.
And the heavy rains come anyway. What happens then? The water rushes down the slopes because the dry soil does not absorb the water. When the soil is hotter than the falling rain, it rejects the water. Only when the soil is cooler, when the vegetation is giving shadow, then it attracts the water and lets it seep in.
Die Vegetation, Beschattung ob, zieht das Wasser an und saugt es auf.
This is the construction site for a new water retention space in Tamera. Wherever you work with soil, you can read the signs of erosion. Topsoil should actually form a thick, living layer everywhere on the ground, which enables rainwater to filter in. But this layer has been eroded away. Now the topsoil lies in layers many meters thick in the bottom of valleys, or is found as mud in rivers. The surface of fields and sites higher up is depleted and barren. Decentralized water retention landscapes give the rainwater time to filter back into the earth body.
Immer sind dieselben Fragen, immer sind dieselben Bedenken. Wo soll denn das Wasser herkommen?
People always have the same questions, always the same worries. Where will all this water come from? In such dusty, dry soil, without streams or a river? How can I build a lake here?
Die Menschen haben es einfach verlernt, das Einfallsgebiet, den Niederschlag, den Segen, also den Regen von oben.
People have simply lost the knowledge of how to use the catchment area and the rain, the blessing of the water in the right way. When I use the catchment area, then a pond or lake will fill very quickly.
How much water can change a landscape in a short time, we can see here, comparing Tamera before the creation of Lake One and today.
Wasserlandschaften.
Water retention landscapes can be built everywhere, anywhere on Earth.
The water retention spaces have winding banks, shallow and deep zones, a diverse vegetation of water plants, and are built aligned to the prevailing wind direction. This way, the water is always moving, is enriched by oxygen, and thus is naturally purified. The water in a water retention landscape stays fresh and alive by itself.
Seitdem wir hier durch den Bau des ersten Retentionsraums
Since we created the first retention space, we can already keep much of the water from the winter rainfalls on the land. In this way it can unfold its full healing capacity. The wildlife is responding and is returning, and the vegetation is recovering. We can plant fruit trees again. The forests recover, and we can grow our food for people and for animals in the direct surroundings of the first retention space. The water which used to run away, and which is now stored here, is at the same time also having an impact on the whole groundwater system.
Und schon im ersten Jahr ist eine Quelle unterhalb dieses Sees entstanden.
In the first year, a spring developed below this lake, which now gives water throughout the year. Since we built this first dam, we no longer have such big variations with a lot of flowing water in winter when it's raining and droughts in summer. We have a more constant water situation throughout the year, which is of course a huge benefit for nature.
Was natürlich ein Riesengewinn ist für die ganze Natur.
So you see, in the place where I live, we don't have the lack of water. Actually, it's just a topic of how we manage the water that comes in winter time. And the water retention landscape supports to buffer the extremes, especially in winter time, and gives it through all the year through into the earth body. And by this, we support closing the big water cycle. So may we together support the big water cycle to be closed, and that the waters flow free from springs on to the ocean. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Silvano, and thank you for Tamara for the amazing work with waters. So, we don't have a lot of time for discussion. So if there's one or two questions maximum or very quick comments, we can still open for 3 minutes and then we would go for a break. So we can come back at 5 again and go for the second part of The Force Among Us. So is there any question or comment for one of these amazing speakers or Tahina that is online? Please. One and second, first and second, and then we close. Let's start to try to be lean.
Olá, boa noite a todos. Me chamo Hélio Vanderlei, sou do Brasil, do Rio de Janeiro. Obrigado pela oportunidade de ver belíssimas apresentações, mas também luta, determinação, coragem e vocação. Acho que é apenas um comentário, seja em qualquer país, o valor da água está em grande debate. O modelo de desenvolvimento econômico também está em debate. E a participação da sociedade ela é fundamental. Mesmo que possamos eleger democraticamente os nossos representantes, nem sempre nos representam. E a verdade é que a luta da sociedade por um ecossistema sustentável é que vai garantir que possamos continuar sobrevivendo nesse planeta. Saio daqui inspirado por vocês e volto para o Brasil, onde também temos muitos problemas como a África do Sul. Quando eu vi a apresentação da África, me lembrei da minha cidade. Os mesmos problemas, as mesmas questões, tudo se repete. É igual em qualquer parte do globo. Mas, na verdade, o que é mais igual é a nossa luta, a nossa resistência e a nossa coragem de fazer a diferença. Muito obrigado, senhores e senhoras.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, our friend is from Manaus, and he's mainly sharing with us how he identifies with what was shared and how he appreciates all the efforts. Yeah, thank you for bringing that voice. And someone else, please. Tara.
Hi, thanks for your talks.
especially Leila, who we just recently had also on our webinar. I really love your spirit. Thanks for that. I have a question that goes to all of you, but especially to our South African colleague. Maybe it's an unpopular opinion, but I have the impression that river commissions and the people responsible for river basin management plans are not always our best friends, and they're not always doing exactly what they're supposed to do. And I don't know if you can tell in your cases, specifically in how much these bodies have been actually supporting you, or maybe, you know, throwing stones between your legs somehow. And that would be very interesting for me, and to see if actually the experience that I'm having with my work is also like something that is happening somewhere else. So yes.
Thank you, Tara. Could you start with answering, Tahina, and then we see?
Sure. So from my side, I believe that we really need to work together on this. So I'm not going about this in any kind of a fighting way. There are people that would like to fight, but my progression has been purely due to the collaboration and the partnership. So I have a very good relationship with my municipality, and we really do actually work quite well together. The issues come in when it's outside of my municipality. So, you know, like we said earlier, the rivers don't have borders. They don't know the provincial boundaries like we do. And, you know, so we have got problems upstream, which are in other municipalities where I don't have those relationships, or the good ones that I have with the municipality here. And obviously that is something that we definitely need to work on. But I think with all the exposure and all the airtime that the river is getting at this stage, we do stand a better chance of moving forward in the right direction.
Thank you. Thank you, Tahina. Anyone else would like to add? All good? Diogo? Very briefly, please.
I don't want to take your time. I just think that we've created a model, a social, economical model of concentration, and we are creating more and more concentration of power, and then it's difficult because people want to change, but this power is so concentrated, and these people don't want to change. So this is really a struggle to revert this, but we have to think that we are the majority, and we need to find ways of collaborating to make the change, not waiting for the big power to have that opinion, the same opinion.
Thank you. Thank you for your questions, your enthusiasm. Thank you all here. Thank you, Tahin, over there. And yeah, I would like to invite us to go to coffee break, because this is something that we cannot postpone with Gulbenkian. And come back here in 12 minutes at 5. So see you very soon. Thank you all.